The morning started
Oh
like any other
my
morning in London,
God.
but it was not. The sun tried to break through the gray clouds, but something felt heavy in the air. People walking to work moved slower than usual. They looked at their phones more often. They whispered to each other on street corners. Something was happening, but no one knew exactly what. Inside the palace walls, the staff had been awake since 3 in the morning. The head butler, a man who had served for 30 years, stood in the hallway with shaking hands. He had never seen the palace like this. The lights were on in every room. Doctors had been arriving through secret entrances since midnight. Their black bags and serious faces told a story that no one wanted to hear. The maids cleaned rooms that were already clean. The cooks prepared food that no one would eat. Everyone was doing something, anything, to keep their minds busy. Because when you stop moving, you start thinking. And thinking about what might be happening behind those closed doors was too much to bear. Outside the palace gates, a young mother named Sarah was the first to arrive. She held her daughter's hand tightly. The little girl, Emma, was only 5 years old. She carried a small bunch of daisies picked from their garden. "Mummy, why are we here so early?" Emma asked, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Sarah did not know how to answer. She had woken up at 4 in the morning with a feeling in her chest. Something told her to come here, to wait, to be present for whatever was about to happen. "Sometimes," she said softly, "we need to show people we care about them, even if we have never met them." More people began to arrive as the sun climbed higher. An old man named Thomas came with his wife Margaret. They had been married for 53 years. Margaret walked slowly now, her body bent with age, but she insisted on coming. "I remember when Diana died," she whispered to Thomas. "I was not there. I will not make that mistake again." A construction worker named David stopped on his way to the job site. He still wore his yellow safety vest and dirt-covered boots. He felt strange standing there in his work clothes, while others wore nice coats and polished shoes. But something pulled him to stay. He called his boss and said he would be late. His boss, understanding the moment, simply said, "Take your time." The crowd grew larger with every passing hour. Students skipped their morning classes. Shop owners locked their doors and walked to the palace. Bus drivers, teachers, nurses still in their uniforms, all came. They did not come because someone told them to. They came because their hearts told them to. No one spoke much. The usual chatter of crowds was absent. Instead, there was a thick silence, broken only by quiet sobs and the rustling of flowers being arranged and rearranged in nervous hands. Strangers stood shoulder to shoulder, sharing something invisible but powerful. Grief has a way of erasing the lines between people. Inside the palace, William stood at the window of his private study. He had not slept in 2 days. His eyes were red and swollen. His hands gripped the windowsill so hard, his knuckles turned white. Below, he could see the growing crowd, hundreds of faces looking up at the palace, waiting, hoping, preparing themselves for news. They did not want to hear. Kate entered the room quietly. She had been crying in the bathroom for the past hour, trying to wash away the evidence before facing the world. But some pain cannot be washed away. It lives in your eyes, in the way you hold your shoulders, in the tremble of your hands when you think no one is watching. "They are all out there," William said without turning around. His voice was hollow, like all the strength had been drained from it. Kate walked to him and looked out the window. The sight of so many people made her throat tighten. "They do not even know yet," she whispered. "But they know something." William finally turned to face her. In the privacy of this room, away from cameras and protocols and expectations, he was just a man. A broken man trying to hold himself together with string and willpower. "How do we do this?" he asked. "How do we walk out there and face them?" Kate reached for his hand. Her fingers intertwined with his, holding on like a person holds a rope in a storm. "We do it together," she said. "The same way we have done everything. together. Through the window, they watched as more people arrived. A teenager with purple hair stood next to a businessman in an expensive suit. A priest stood beside a taxi driver. The barriers that usually divided people age, class, religion, background meant nothing now. Grief was the great equalizer. It made everyone equal in their pain. The palace press secretary knocked on the door. Her face was pale, her eyes red like everyone else's. "They are asking when you will make a statement," she said carefully. "The media is gathering. The whole world is watching." William looked at Kate. Kate looked at William. Neither spoke, but both understood. This was the moment when their private pain would become public, when their family's tragedy would belong to the world, when they would have to be strong, even though every part of them was breaking. "Give us 10 minutes, William said. "Then we will come out." The press secretary nodded and left quietly. The door clicked shut. In the silence that followed, William and Kate stood together, holding hands, gathering whatever strength they had left. Outside, the crowd waited. Inside, two people prepared to show the world what true courage looked like. The 10 minutes felt like 10 seconds. Too fast. Not enough time to prepare for what was about to happen. But time does not stop for grief. It moves forward, pulling everyone with it, ready or not. It was time.
The hallway leading to the palace doors had never felt so long. William and Kate walked side by side, their footsteps echoing on the marble floor. Every step felt heavier than the last. Behind them, 3 palace staff members followed at a respectful distance. These were people who had worked in the palace for decades. They had seen births, weddings, celebrations. But this walk was different from all the others. Kate's hand trembled slightly as she smoothed down her black coat. She had chosen it carefully that morning, standing in her closet for 20 minutes, unable to decide. How do you dress for a moment like this? What do you wear when your heart is shattered but the world needs to see you standing? In the end, she picked something simple, something that would not distract from what really mattered. William adjusted his tie for the 3rd time. His private secretary, a kind man named Robert who had been with the family for 15 years, stepped forward. "Sir," he said gently, "you do not have to do this right now. We can wait. We can release a statement instead." William stopped walking. For a moment, he considered it. How easy it would be to hide, to let words on paper do the work, to stay behind these safe walls where no one could see his pain. But then he thought of the crowd outside. The people who had left their homes, their jobs, their normal lives to stand in solidarity. They deserved more than words on paper. "No," William said firmly. "They came for us. We go to them." Kate squeezed his hand. She understood. This was not about duty or protocol or royal expectations. This was about being human, about showing up even when showing up was the hardest thing in the world. They reached the main entrance hall. Through the tall windows, they could see shadows of the crowd outside. Thousands of them now. The number had doubled in the last hour. News had spread across the city, across the country. People were leaving work early. Schools were letting children go home. The entire nation seemed to be holding its breath. A young palace guard stood at attention near the door. His name was James. He was only 22 years old. This was his first year serving at the palace. He had dreamed of this job since he was a little boy. He had imagined grand parades and royal ceremonies. He never imagined this. A single tear rolled down his cheek, but he did not move to wipe it away. His training said to stay still. His heart said something else entirely. William noticed the tear. He paused in front of James and did something unexpected. He placed his hand on the young guard's shoulder. "Thank you," William said quietly, "for being here." James's throat tightened. He wanted to say something back, but no words would come, so he simply nodded. Sometimes a nod says everything that words cannot. The head of security approached them. "Your Royal Highnesses," he said, his voice unusually soft. "The crowd is very large. We have secured the perimeter, but emotions are high. If at any moment you need to step back, just give me the signal." Kate looked at the security chief. This man had protected them for years. He had stood in rain and snow and blazing sun. He had traveled with them to dangerous places. But she had never seen his eyes look like this. Worried, fatherly, human. "We will be fine," Kate said, though she was not sure she believed it herself. The palace chaplain appeared from a side door. He wore his clerical collar and carried a small prayer book. "May I offer a blessing?" he asked. "Just a short one." William and Kate nodded. They stood together as the chaplain placed his hand above their heads. "Grant them strength," he said simply. "Grant them peace. Grant them the courage to face what must be faced. Amen. Amen." They whispered together. The doors would open in 60 seconds. Staff members took their positions. Security guards checked their radios one last time. Someone dimmed the lights in the entrance hall slightly, making the light outside seem brighter, more intense. The moment was almost here. Kate looked down at her hands. They were shaking. She clasped them together, trying to steady them, but they would not stop. William saw this and took both her hands in his. "Look at me," he said. She lifted her eyes to meet his. In them, she saw her own fear reflected back. But she also saw something else. Determination, love, partnership. They had been through so much together. Happy times and hard times. But nothing had prepared them for this. "We do not have to be perfect," William said. "We just have to be real." Kate nodded. Her breathing slowed slightly. "Yes, real. Not the polished version the public usually saw. Not the rehearsed smiles and practice waves. Just two people in pain, facing other people who understood pain. 30 seconds now. The security chief spoke into his radio. "They are coming out. Repeat, they are coming out. All units stand ready." Outside, the crowd sensed something was happening. The murmuring stopped completely. Mothers pulled their children closer. Old hands gripped young hands. Strangers became united in anticipation. Camera crews from around the world adjusted their lenses. Reporters checked their microphones. But even they seemed to understand this was bigger than a story. This was history. This was humanity at its rawest. 15 seconds. A staff member moved toward the door handles. They were massive doors, made of oak that was 300 years old. They had opened for kings and queens. They had opened for victory celebrations and somber announcements. They had witnessed centuries of British history. Now they would open again. 5 seconds. William and Kate stood shoulder to shoulder at the threshold. Behind them, the safety of the palace. Ahead of them, the unpredictable emotion of thousands. There was no turning back now. The doors began to open, slowly. The sound of the hinges seemed louder than usual. Sunlight poured into the entrance hall, bright and almost blinding after the dim interior. Fresh air rushed in, carrying with the scent of flowers and the faint sound of crying. William took the first step forward. Kate matched him step for step. Together, they emerged from the shadows into the light. The crowd saw them, and everything changed. The moment William and Kate stepped into the open air, a sound rose from the crowd that no one had ever heard before. It was not cheering. It was not shouting. It was something between a gasp and a sob, multiplied by thousands. It was a sound of collective heartbreak becoming visible. The first thing Kate noticed was how many flowers there were. Everywhere she looked, people held bouquets. Roses, lilies, daisies, tulips. Some were expensive arrangements from flower shops. Others were simple wildflowers picked from gardens. But every single one had been brought with love. The ground near the barriers was already covered with flowers, cards, and teddy bears. The pile grew taller every minute. William felt his chest tighten. He had prepared himself for this moment, or so he thought. But nothing could truly prepare you for standing in front of thousands of crying faces. Faces that looked at you not with curiosity or excitement, but with pure, raw compassion. These people hurt because he hurt. They cried because his family was crying. It was overwhelming. An elderly woman in the front row caught Kate's eye. She must have been 80 years old, maybe older. Her white hair was tied back neatly. Her coat was old but clean. In her weathered hands, she held a black and white photograph. Kate could not see the details from this distance, but she understood. The woman was holding a memory, a person she had lost. She was here because she knew what loss felt like. Kate's eyes filled with tears. She had promised herself she would stay strong. She had practiced keeping her emotions controlled. But seeing that old woman, seeing the photograph clutched to her chest like a treasure, broke something inside Kate. The tears came fast and hot, rolling down her cheeks without permission. The crowd saw the tears, and instead of looking away politely, as people usually do, they leaned in closer. They wanted Kate to know it was okay to cry. That tears were not weakness. That being royal did not mean being made of stone. William placed his hand on the small of Kate's back. A gesture so small, so simple, but it said everything. I am here. You are not alone. We will get through this together. Kate felt the warmth of his hand through her coat and drew strength from it. She took a deep breath and wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. It was not elegant. It was not practice. It was real. A little boy, maybe 7 years old, broke free from his mother's grip and ran toward the barrier. Security guards tensed, ready to intercept, but William raised his hand slightly to stop them. The boy was not a threat. He was just a child with something to say. Prince William, the boy called out, his voice high and clear. My dad says you are very brave. The crowd fell silent. Everyone wanted to hear William's response. William walked closer to the barrier, close enough to see the boy's freckles and missing front tooth. He knelt down on one knee, bringing himself to the child's eye level. This action, this simple gesture of meeting a child where he was, caused a ripple of emotion through the crowd. What is your name? William asked gently. Oliver, the boy said, suddenly shy now that the prince was speaking directly to him. Oliver, William repeated. Thank you for coming today. And thank you to your dad. But you know what? I do not feel very brave right now. Oliver tilted his head, confused. But you are a prince. Princes are always brave. William smiled, though it was a sad smile. Being brave does not mean you are not scared, Oliver. It means you do things even when you are very, very scared. Even when you want to run away and hide, you still show up. Oliver thought about this for a moment. Then he nodded solemnly, as if he had just learned something very important. His mother, tears streaming down her face, mouthed, Thank you to William. Kate had moved to a different section of the barrier. A teenage girl stood there, maybe 16 years old. She wore a school uniform and held a handmade card. Her hands shook as she held it out. I made this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I did not know what else to do. Kate took the card carefully. On the front, the girl had drawn 2 birds sitting on a branch together. Inside, written in careful handwriting, were the words, When the world feels dark, remember you do not fly alone. Kate read the words once, then twice, then a third time. Something about them reached deep into her heart and squeezed. She looked up at the girl. What is your name? Sophie, the girl answered. Sophie, this is beautiful. Thank you. I will keep this forever. Kate pressed the card to her heart. I promise you, I will keep it forever. Sophie began to cry then, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming feeling of being seen, of having her small gesture matter to someone she had only ever seen on television. Kate reached through the barrier and took Sophie's hand. They stood like that for several seconds, 2 people from completely different worlds, connected by shared emotion. More people called out gently, not demanding attention, but offering support. We love you, someone shouted. You are not alone, another voice added. We are here for you, came from the back of the crowd. William stood up from where he had been kneeling and looked out over the sea of faces. He had given thousands of speeches in his life. He had spoken to world leaders and diplomats. He had addressed crowds of hundreds of thousands. But right now, with his throat tight and his heart heavy, he could barely find his voice. He raised his hand, asking for quiet. The crowd fell silent immediately, waiting. Everyone leaned forward slightly, straining to hear what he would say. Even the reporters stopped talking. The cameras zoomed in. The world held its breath. William opened his mouth to speak, then closed it. He tried again. His voice came out rough and broken. Thank you, he managed to say. Just 2 words. But they carried the weight of everything he could not say. All the grief, all the gratitude, all the overwhelming love he felt for these strangers who had become family in this moment of shared pain. The crowd understood. Sometimes 2 words are enough. Sometimes 2 words say everything. The sun moved higher in the sky, but nobody seemed to notice the time passing. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like minutes. Time moved differently when hearts were breaking together. A man in a wheelchair pushed himself forward through the crowd. People moved aside to let him through. His name was Edward. He was a veteran who had served in the military for 20 years. He had lost his legs in service, but never lost his spirit. On his lap, he held a folded flag and a single white rose. William saw him coming. Something about the man's face, weathered and strong, reminded him of his grandfather. Without hesitation, William stepped away from the barrier and walked directly to where the wheelchair had stopped. Security guards shifted nervously, but William waved them back. "Sir," Edward said, his voice steady despite the tears on his cheeks, "I served under the Crown for 20 years. I just wanted you to know we stand with you. All of us. Always." William crouched down beside the wheelchair, bringing himself to Edward's level. "Thank you for your service," he said. "And thank you for being here today. It means more than you know." Edward held out the white rose. "This is from all the veterans. We take care of our own. You are one of us now, one of the broken but still standing." William took the rose carefully. His hands trembled as he held it. "Broken but still standing," he repeated quietly. "Yes, that is exactly what we are." The 2 men looked at each other. No more words were needed. They understood each other in a way that only people who have faced darkness can understand. William stood slowly, still holding the white rose. He would carry it with him for the rest of the day. It would sit on his desk for months afterward, dried and fragile, but precious. Kate had moved further along the barrier. A young mother stood there with twin babies in a stroller. The babies were sleeping peacefully, unaware of the heavy emotions surrounding them. The mother looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy knot. She wore sweatpants and an old jacket. She looked like she had rushed out of the house without thinking about her appearance. "I am so sorry," the young mother said when Kate stopped in front of her. "I know I look terrible. I just could not stay home. I had to come." Kate smiled through her tears. "You look like a mother. That is the most beautiful thing anyone can look like." The young mother's face crumpled. "I heard the news this morning while feeding my babies, and I just kept thinking, how do you keep going? How do you take care of everyone else when your own heart is breaking?" Kate felt those words hit her chest like a physical blow, because that was exactly the question she had been asking herself. How do you keep going? How do you smile when you want to scream? How do you stand when you want to fall? "You do it 1 minute at a time," Kate said softly. "1 breath at a time. And you let people help you. You do not have to be strong alone." The young mother nodded, tears flowing freely now. One of the babies stirred in the stroller, making a small sound. Kate looked down at the tiny face, so peaceful and innocent. "How old?" she asked. 3 months, the mother answered. "I named them Hope and Grace, because I thought those were the 2 things we all need most in this world." "Hope and Grace," Kate repeated. "Perfect names, beautiful names." She reached down and gently touched the baby's tiny hand. The small fingers curled around her finger instinctively. That simple touch, that innocent grip, reminded Kate why life mattered, why love mattered, why showing up mattered. Behind them, a commotion started in the middle of the crowd. People were parting to let someone through. An elderly man was being helped forward by 2 younger people. He moved slowly, using a cane, but his determination was clear. He would not be stopped. When he finally reached the front, William recognized him immediately. This was Henry, the palace gardener. He had worked at the palace for 45 years. He had taught William about roses when William was just a boy. Henry had retired 3 years ago, but he had come back today. "Henry," William said, his voice thick with emotion, "you should not have made this journey. It is too far for you." Henry shook his head firmly. No place else I would be, sir. I had to come. Had to let you know. The garden remembers. Every tree, every flower, every stone. The garden remembers joy. And it will hold that memory for you until you are ready to remember it yourself. William's composure finally broke completely. All the strength he had been holding on to crumbled. Tears poured down his face without restraint. His shoulders shook. He bent forward slightly, as if the weight of grief had physically pushed him down. Kate was at his side in an instant. She wrapped her arms around him, holding him up, holding him together. They stood like that in front of thousands of people, not hiding, not pretending, just being human, just being broken. The crowd did not look away. They did not feel uncomfortable. Instead, they cried with them. Thousands of people crying together, sharing the burden of pain, so that no one had to carry it alone. A young guard named Michael, who had been standing at attention for hours, finally let his own tears fall. He had been trained to show no emotion, but this was bigger than training. This was bigger than protocol. His sergeant saw the tears and did not reprimand him. Instead, the older man placed a hand on Michael's shoulder. They stood together, guard and sergeant, both crying, both human. In the crowd, strangers held hands. People who had never met embraced each other. A businessman in an expensive suit stood next to a homeless man, and they leaned on each other for support. Class did not matter. Age did not matter. Background did not matter. In this moment, everyone was equal in their shared humanity. A church bell began to ring in the distance. Slow, solemn tolls that echoed across the city. One ring for each year of a life lived. The crowd counted silently. Each ring a reminder of time that had passed. Time that could never come back. William lifted his head from Kate's shoulder. His face was wet with tears. His eyes were red and swollen. But there was something different in them now. Not happiness, not peace, but acceptance. The kind of acceptance that comes when you stop fighting reality and start learning to live with it. Thank you, he said to the crowd again. Louder this time. Stronger. Thank you all for being here, for standing with us. We will never forget this. Never. The crowd applauded, soft at first, then growing louder. Not celebration, not joy, but acknowledgement. We see you. We hear you. We are with you. The sound filled the air like a promise being made by thousands of voices without words. The afternoon light began to change. Shadows grew longer. The air turned cooler. But nobody moved. Nobody wanted this moment to end. Because when it ended, reality would come rushing back. The pain would still be there, but the shared comfort might fade. Kate looked at William. They had been outside for almost 2 hours, much longer than anyone had planned. Security had signaled several times that they should go back inside, but neither of them could leave. Not yet. These people had given them something precious, their presence, their tears, their love. The least they could do was stay a little longer. A nun pushed through the crowd slowly. She was small and ancient, her back bent with age. Her habit was simple and worn. She carried nothing but a wooden rosary wrapped around her fingers. When she reached the barrier, she looked up at Kate with eyes that had seen a lifetime of joy and sorrow. "My child," the nun said in a voice that trembled but held firm, "I have prayed every day for 57 years. I have prayed for the sick, the lost, the broken. Today, I pray for you. And I want you to know, God sees your pain. He holds it. You are not carrying it alone." Kate knelt down in front of the old nun, right there, in her expensive coat on the cold ground. She took the nun's weathered hands in her own. "Thank you, sister. What is your name?" "Margaret," the nun answered. "Sister Margaret." "Sister Margaret," Kate said, her voice shaking. "Will you pray for us now? Right now?" The nun's eyes widened in surprise, then softened with compassion. "Of course, my child." Sister Margaret began to pray. Her voice was quiet but clear. She prayed in simple words that anyone could understand. She asked for strength, for peace, for the ability to find light even in the darkest valleys. She thanked God for love that never dies, for memories that live forever, for the courage to face tomorrow. Around them, The crowd fell completely silent. Even those who did not believe in prayer felt the power of that moment. It was not about religion. It was about one human being reaching out to another with the only gift she had to give: hope. When Sister Margaret finished, she made the sign of the cross over Kate's head. Then she did something unexpected. She leaned forward and kissed Kate's forehead, the way a grandmother kisses a grandchild. "You will survive this," she whispered. "Not today, not tomorrow, but one day you will smile again. I promise you this." Kate could not speak. She could only nod. She squeezed the old nun's hands once more before standing up. Her knees were dirty from kneeling on the ground. She did not care. Some things matter more than clean clothes. William had watched the entire exchange. Something about it, the simplicity, the genuine love, touched something deep inside him. He walked over to Sister Margaret and bowed his head. "Please," he said, "for me too." Sister Margaret reached up with her small hand and placed it on William's head. She prayed again. Different words this time, but the same message. "You are loved. You will survive. You are not alone." When she finished, William opened his eyes. For the first time all day, something close to peace crossed his face. Not happiness, not relief, just a tiny bit of peace in the middle of the storm. The moment was interrupted by a small sound, a child singing. Everyone turned to look. A little girl, maybe 4 years old, sat on her father's shoulders. She sang in a high, sweet voice. It was a simple song, a lullaby. The kind mothers sing to their babies at bedtime. One by one, others join in, first her father, then the people standing near them, then more and more voices. Within moments, thousands of people were singing together. Some knew all the words. Some hummed the melody. But everyone contributed their voice to the chorus. William and Kate stood still listening. Tears flowed freely down both their faces now. But these tears felt different. Still sad, but mixed with something else. Gratitude, connection, the overwhelming feeling of being held by something bigger than themselves. The song ended. Silence returned. But it was a different kind of silence now. Not heavy with grief, but warm with shared understanding. Something had shifted. The pain had not gone away. It would never go away, but it had been transformed by being shared. William knew it was time. He could not stay here forever, no matter how much he wanted to. He had to go back inside, back to phone calls and arrangements and all the terrible tasks that follow loss. But first, he needed to say something. He stepped forward one more time. His voice, when he spoke, was stronger than it had been all day. "My family and I," he began, then stopped. He corrected himself. "Kate, and I want you to know something. We came out here today because we needed you. We needed to see your faces, to feel your love, to remember that we are not alone in this world." He paused, gathering strength for what he wanted to say next. "You could have stayed home today. You could have sent flowers or cards. But you came. You stood here for hours. You cried with us. You prayed with us. You sang with us. And because of that, because of you, we will find the strength to keep going." Kate stepped beside him and added her own words. "We do not know how to thank you. There are no words big enough. But please know, we will remember this day forever. We will remember your faces, your kindness, your love. When the dark days come, and they will come, we will remember that you were here, and that will help us survive." They stood together, hand in hand, looking out at the crowd one last time, memorizing the moment, storing away like a treasure to be open on the hardest days ahead. Then William did something that would be photographed and remembered forever. He brought Kate's hand to his lips and kissed it. A simple gesture. But in that gesture was everything. Love, partnership, commitment, the promise that they would face whatever came next together. The crowd erupted in applause. Not loud celebration, but sustained, respectful clapping. The kind that says, "We see you, we honor you, we will remember you." William and Kate turned and began walking back toward the palace doors. With each step, the reality of what awaited them inside grew heavier. But they did not walk alone. Thousands of hearts walked with them. Thousands of prayers lifted them up. Thousands of voices whispered in the wind. You can do this. You will survive. You are loved. At the doors, they paused and turned back one final time. They raised their joined hands together in a wave. Not a royal wave, just a simple gesture of goodbye. The crowd waved back. Some blew kisses. Others placed their hands over their hearts. The massive doors closed slowly behind them. The sound echoed across the courtyard. The crowd remained for a long time afterward. Nobody wanted to leave. Nobody wanted to break the spell of what they had just witnessed. Inside the palace, William and Kate walked down the long hallway in silence. Their hands still joined, their steps slower now. When they reached the private quarters, away from all eyes, they finally stopped. They turned to face each other. No words were spoken. None were needed. They simply held each other. Two people who had been broken by grief, but were still standing, still together, still fighting. Outside, the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky. The crowd slowly dispersed, carrying with them a memory that would last forever. They had come to give comfort, but they had received something too. They had witnessed a moment when vulnerability became strength, when royal titles dissolved into simple humanity, when a prince and princess showed the world that true courage is not the absence of tears. It is a willingness to cry in front of thousands and still stand tall. The story would be told for generations, not as a tale of tragedy, but as a story of love. Love between two people. Love between a family and their nation. Love that refuses to be broken, even when everything else falls apart. In the darkness, a single light remained burning in the palace window, a reminder that even in the deepest night, hope survives. Even in the harshest winter, spring will come again. Even the most broken heart, love continues to beat. And tomorrow, though it would be hard, the sun would rise again.